afternoon, I'm Katie Wilson and you are watching A News. Let's see the headlines. The United States and China have agreed a deal to temporarily slash reciprocal tariffs. President Zelenskyy says he is ready to meet President Putin in Istanbul for direct talks. Hamas says the organisation is ready to release an Israeli-American hostage.
The United States and China have agreed to a 90-day pause in their trade war, with both countries committing to sharply reduce tariffs in a bid to ease global market uncertainty and revive economic cooperation. Speaking after high-level talks in Geneva on Monday, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced the deal, which will see China cut tariffs on U.S. goods from 125% to 10%, while the U.S. will reduce tariffs on Chinese imports from 145% to 30%. The revised American levy includes a 10% base rate and an additional 20% tax hike on fentanyl-related products. In a joint statement, both sides have pledged to a long-term and balanced trade relationship. Bessent called the talks robust and said both countries defended their interests well.
The consensus from both delegations this weekend is neither side wants a decoupling. And what had occurred with these very high tariffs, as Ambassador Greer said, was the equivalent of an embargo, and neither side wants that. We do want trade. We want more balanced trade, and I think that both sides are committed to achieving that.
China's Ministry of Commerce described the agreement with the U.S. as a crucial step toward resolving differences and laying the foundation to bridge gaps and deepen cooperation. In a joint statement, both countries announced the creation of a new mechanism to continue discussions on economic and trade relations, led by Scott Bessent and China's Vice Premier, He Lifeng. The statement emphasized that both nations believe ongoing talks could address their respective concerns in the trade relationship. A spokesperson also expressed hope that the U.S. would build on this foundation, continue working with China, and fully correct its unilateral tariff policies. During an interview with CNBC, Bessent stated that he expects to meet with China again in the next few weeks, with the next meeting likely focusing on a more comprehensive agreement. He also mentioned that they would work on addressing non-tariff barriers and expressed confidence that China is now committed to stopping the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. After the agreement, European shares also climbed, giving investors hope that a full-scale trade war might be avoided. The breakthrough follows a steep escalation in April, when President Donald Trump raised tariffs on Chinese goods to 145%, reigniting tensions in a trade conflict that began in 2018. China responded with its own levy increases, further straining global trade and the economic relationship between the world's two largest economies.
European ministers are in London for key talks on Ukraine and regional security. The meeting comes just days after a high-profile visit to Kyiv by top European leaders. Hosted by Britain's Foreign Secretary David Lammy, the talks focus on supporting Ukraine and boosting defence cooperation ahead of a major UK-EU summit next week. The visit follows Saturday's trip to Kyiv by leaders from the UK, France, Germany and Poland, who backed a 30-day ceasefire and warned of new sanctions on Russia. President Putin has proposed direct talks with Ukraine, but no date has been set.
The Europeans will want peace. Ukraine and the government of President Zelenskyy want peace. Now it's up to Russia and Vladimir Putin to give their answer. Do they want peace?
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says he's ready to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in Istanbul this Thursday. The invitation follows a renewed diplomatic push and calls for a ceasefire.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says he will be in Istanbul on Thursday for direct talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, challenging him to personally attend. It follows encouragement from US President Donald Trump. It's after Putin proposed talks in Turkey during a televised address on Saturday night, but it remains unclear whether he plans to attend in person. Zelenskyy, speaking in his nightly address on Sunday, reiterated Ukraine's support for a ceasefire and called on Russia to provide a clear response.
Starting from tomorrow, we expect a ceasefire. The proposal for this is on the table. A complete and unconditional ceasefire, long enough to provide the necessary foundation for diplomacy, could bring peace much closer.
He added that Ukraine is willing to negotiate in any format and urged Moscow to respond to international calls for de-escalation.
Russia's war will still have to end. The killing must end. Ukrainian forces will be ready to mirror their response with fairness. We are ready for any format.
Zelenskyy said the ball is now in Russia's court and called on Putin to attend the meeting.
I will be in Turkey this Thursday, May the 15th, and I'm expecting Putin in Turkey, personally. I hope this time Putin will not look for reasons why he can't do something. We are ready to talk to end the war, Thursday in Turkey. President Trump supports it. All leaders support it.
Analysts say the proposal marks a significant move by Zelenskyy, especially after days of coordinated calls from European leaders for a 30-day ceasefire. Some observers also view the move as an attempt to show flexibility to key allies, including Washington.
Zelenskyy's announcement that he's willing to go to Turkey and essentially wait for Vladimir Putin, and his willingness to act boldly in the name of Ukraine's national defense. Zelenskyy is very much trying to put the front foot back on Vladimir Putin. I think he is trying to show to the U.S. that as heterodox as some of Trump's proposals and ideas may be, and as much as he may shoot from the hip on some of this policy making, that he's willing to be a partner who adapts to some of those U.S. demands, recognizing the importance of its support.
As Thursday's proposed meeting draws closer, there has been no official confirmation from the Kremlin on Putin's attendance. The two leaders have not met since 2019, when talks were held in Paris alongside France and Germany.
We heard that even if the meeting were to go ahead, that Vladimir Putin would meaningfully alter his strategy or give up the territory that he is occupying in Ukraine.
The focus now shifts to Istanbul, where the possibility of direct talks remains uncertain amid ongoing diplomatic efforts.
President Putin's late-night call for renewed negotiations is drawing sharply different reactions in the two capitals. While the mood in Moscow reflects cautious optimism, many in Kyiv remain deeply sceptical.
In the Ukrainian capital, many residents are questioning the timing and motives behind Russian President Vladimir Putin's offer of direct talks with Ukraine. Some believe it may be more about political maneuvering than a genuine push for peace.
There have been warnings issued by the United States that there may be rocket attacks over the next 2 days. At the same time, there is Putin's proposal on direct talks. To be honest, it has become very difficult to understand what's going on amid all this information. For us, peaceful civilians, what matters is to have peace as soon as possible.
Putin is trying to buy time. It is just empty talk of no consequence. He is trying to buy time. He proposed to hold talks on Thursday because I read the news about it. Russians are closing the skies over Kapustin Yar, a Russian military training ground and rocket launch complex in Astrakhan region, on the 12th and 13th, which means we should expect another attack. US has issued warning about it.
Meanwhile, in Moscow, some residents expressed cautious hope that the proposal could mark a step toward ending the war.
I would like direct talks between Russia and Ukraine, because everyone wants peace and there are opportunities for this. And I think that a lot depends on the strength, or precisely the will, of Vladimir Putin in the negotiations. If he has made such an offer, it means he has his own plan. I hope it will be positive. There will be a long-awaited ceasefire and then peace.
You know, I'm not sure at all that they will be able to come to an agreement quickly. This process is complicated. But if a powerful third country isn't involved in this effort, then it's unlikely that Russia and Ukraine will reach an agreement.
For now, the prospect of a ceasefire hangs in the balance, and the war continues to grind on.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian says Iran has no interest in developing nuclear weapons as indirect talks with the US resumed in Oman. He stressed Iran's nuclear program is strictly for peaceful purposes, such as healthcare and agriculture. Speaking in a cabinet meeting, Pezeshkian said the latest talks in Muscat were part of Iran's efforts to resolve the nuclear issue through diplomacy. He described the discussions as constructive and reaffirmed Tehran's commitment to peaceful negotiations. Officials say that further negotiations are planned. Top military officials from India and Pakistan are due to speak on Monday to discuss finer details of the ceasefire agreed between them over the weekend. Joining us live from Islamabad to tell us more is Dr. Farhat Azif, President of the Institute of Peace and Diplomatic Studies. Thank you for being with us. Now, to begin with, could you tell us more about the ceasefire agreement and how it came about?
Yeah, thank you so much. Last May, on May 10th, finally, when the Pakistan attacked on Pakistan retaliated back on India on its territory, because as a result of so many days we have been witnessing a tension situation between both countries. We have witnessed that the international community, primarily US and Saudi diplomacy, had made the breakthrough, where we have witnessed the tense situation. The night was, attack was made from Pakistan. Pakistan Air Force attacked several military installations in India, and later, there was a sense of escalation was coming from the region, and it was a tense situation because there could have been anything happen, because Prime Minister of Pakistan called for the National Command Authorities meeting, and then that has created a lot of tensions at the international capitals, because that meeting, when it was called, it means that Pakistan is discussing or deciding about something about its nuclear threshold or strategic posture change, which was another escalation of the tension. So President Trump made a statement about the ceasefire has been made because there was a continuous diplomacy back and forth, because Foreign Minister of the Saudi Arabia was there in Delhi, and then he also had a conversations with the Prime Minister and various other officials here in Islamabad, and these truce has been made. And for 48 hours, it was asked that this ceasefire will prevail by both parties. And this evening, this ceasefire of 48 hours was ending. And I'm also looking at very closely about the developments, and I'm seeing that there's a tension still going on, because DGMOs are about to talk with each other at 4 p.m. while we will be discussing here, and Prime Minister of India will be speaking live at 8 p.m. Depending on the fact
let
that
me
how
ask
these
you about
situations
the ceasefire itself. So what are the conditions that have been set by both sides, and if either side were to break the agreement, what consequences could there be?
So primarily, this 48 hours ceasefire was made between both sides right after the attack, and this depending on the fact that how both countries DJMOs will be talking with each other, and how both sides will be discussing about the proportionate continuation of this ceasefire further, depend upon the fact, and the conditions that will be made from both sides is about the different tensions that has been brewing for quite a while. I mean, Indus Water Treaty, Shimla Agreement, many exchange of information about and primarily the threat coming from India is about the terrorism, and which is Pakistan itself is a victim of terrorism. As you know, Pakistan has also faced on the western side, from Afghanistan side, we have been witnessing surge of the violence and terrorism from the Taliban Pakistan and with many other groups, which is again Pakistan is a victim. And to be honest, when I was looking at all this development, I could not believe myself by looking at very closely that how can a country be opening another front with India, and it seems not reliable. I mean, to say the least. And of course, Pakistan has asked for the investigation of all these terrorist incidents that happened in Pahalgam. So primarily,
do you think this truce? Do you think it's a step towards guaranteed peace, or do you think it's just a temporary timeout for Pakistan and India?
Yeah, I guess it is most primarily a temporary timeout for both of the countries, because 48 hours of these 2 days, and then there will be a discussion. Back channel diplomacy, of course, is ongoing, but at the same time, this is another. There will be discussion tonight, or in the meanwhile, the back channel diplomacy, as I said, is happening, and as a result, I think that there will be a chance for both countries to have kind of a meltdown or what is going on both sides. And I think that this truce will continue primarily with the different conditions and challenges as well, because I don't think so that it's going towards primarily a peace, but it is a kind of a unsettled or a challenging times where anything can happen. I mean, any step, any misstep, or any misdialogue at this point in time is a quite tension on both sides in Delhi and also in Islamabad, because as you see that there's a lot of losses on lives on both sides. Military installations have been hit, and a lot of killings have been happening so far. And also there's a risk of the all-out war between both states, which are nuclear armed as well. So primarily the global community is asking for the truce, and they are working for balancing this out as much as possible.
Really interesting insights there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Now, a senior Hamas official says Israeli-American hostage Idan Alexander will soon be released in Gaza. He is believed to be the last American citizen still held captive by Hamas.
After months of deadlock, Hamas says it's preparing to release Idan Alexander, a 21-year-old Israeli-American soldier held hostage in Gaza since the 7th of October 2023. A senior Hamas official confirmed the development to Reuters, describing it as part of broader efforts to reach a ceasefire and ease the humanitarian crisis in the Strip. Alexander, born and raised in New Jersey, is believed to be the last living American hostage held by Hamas.
Dan is a great guy, Jersey boy, all-American kid, great swimmer, graduated from the high school like everybody else instead of college. Traveled to Israel, served in IDF, and found himself on the wrong spot in the wrong time.
His release is expected as early as Tuesday, according to sources familiar with the negotiations. Efforts to secure his freedom have been led by key mediators, Qatar and Egypt, alongside Turkey. In a statement, Hamas leader Khalil al-Hayya said the group is ready to enter intensive negotiations aimed at ending the war and exchanging prisoners. The news comes as US President Donald Trump prepares to visit the Middle East this week. He also made a post on Truth Social, thanking the mediators and calling the release a step taken in good faith toward ending the conflict. The joint statement from Qatar and Egypt welcomed the development, saying it could revive the stalled ceasefire talks that collapsed 2 months ago. They reaffirmed their commitment to pushing for a permanent ceasefire. Meanwhile, conditions in Gaza continue to deteriorate. Since the 2nd of March, Israel has cut off all supplies to the Strip's 2.3 million residents. Food reserves stockpiled during a temporary truce have nearly run out, and the United Nations has warned of imminent famine. Hamas has indicated it is willing to release all remaining hostages as part of a comprehensive agreement that includes a permanent ceasefire and a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. Israel, however, insists the war will not end until Hamas is dismantled. Earlier in May, Israel said that its military campaign might expand.
Algeria has ordered the expulsion of several French embassy staff, accusing them of breaching diplomatic protocol. Algerian authorities say 2 of them worked at the French Special Intelligence Service and allegedly entered the country using fake diplomatic passports.
Algeria has summoned the French Chargé d'Affaires in Algiers and ordered the immediate expulsion of multiple French embassy employees, citing what it called serious and repeated breaches of diplomatic protocol. At the centre of the latest row are at least 15 French personnel who allegedly took up posts in Algeria without proper accreditation. Among the accused, 2 officials from France's Interior Ministry Directorate of Internal Security, reportedly intelligence agents, are accused of entering the country using fake diplomatic passports. Algerian authorities say the appointments, including staff transferred after a previous expulsion, bypassed formal notification channels. This marks the second expulsion of French diplomatic staff in under a month. In April, Algeria expelled 12 French embassy employees in retaliation for the arrest of an Algerian consular officer in Paris. French authorities accused that official of involvement in the kidnapping of an Algerian opposition figure, a charge that Algiers strongly rejected. In response, France expelled 12 Algerian diplomats and recalled its ambassador in Algiers for consultations, escalating a tit-for-tat diplomatic standoff. Despite efforts to de-escalate tensions, including a late March phone call between President Abdelmadjid Tebboune and French President Emmanuel Macron, and a visit to Algiers by French Minister Jean-Noël Barrot in early April, relations continue to strain.
Protests broke out across France on Sunday following the fatal stabbing of a young Muslim man in a mosque. Demonstrators demanded justice and denounced the rise of Islamophobia in politics and media.
Hundreds of protesters marched through Paris and other major French cities on Sunday condemning rising Islamophobia. They're demanding justice for Abu Bakr Cissé, a young 22-year-old Muslim man who was fatally stabbed at a mosque last month. Rallies took place in Paris, Marseille, Lyon and other cities, saying it's in response to growing anti-Muslim sentiment in French politics and the media. In Paris, the march began at Place de la Bastille and ended at Place de la Nation, with chants of "Stop Islamophobia" and "Justice for Abu Bakr" echoing through the streets. Demonstrators also condemned Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau's immigration and security policies. The protesters were holding signs reading "Islamophobia kills." The state and media contribute to it. "Let's resist," and "Retailleau, Abu Bakr's blood is on your hands."
The Kurdistan Workers' Party, known as the PKK, has announced its decision to dissolve. The statement was released through pro-Kurdish media on Monday. The group is saying its 12th Congress decided to end its armed struggle and dismantle the organisation. Earlier today, I was joined by Vakas Doğan Tekin, Senior Correspondent at Anadolu Agency. He shared his insights on the dissolvement and explained what we can expect, as well as the potential dangers this may pose.
With the start of the Syrian civil war, PKK, a very opportunistic terror group it is, they decided to continue with their terrorism, and they stopped the peace process like 15 years ago, because they saw an opportunity in Syria of founding their own state, and with the help of US and other regional actors. But right now, the regional dynamics and the paradigm shifts that have happened in the past decade are in favor of Turkey. And now it is their second chance, and I think the last chance. And if they don't use it wisely, I think there will be a very crushing response from the Turkish state. Their leader, so-called leader Öcalan, was in Turkish prison for a long time, and there were negotiations. And now he is calling on his group to disband itself, and they have, after some negotiations among them, they have finally decided to disband and continue with this new peace process. There is a cautious optimism. Neither side really trusts each other completely, but it's a wait and see process. We don't know how seriously it will be taken by all the groups within PKK. We don't know if there will be new formations under it, because their statement is still having these inflammatory statements in it. saying we are just doing away with this PKK name itself. But if they continue to really disgust the Turkish nation with poisonous statements, and if they continue as a terror group in the mentality in the Turkish parliament or elsewhere, I think it's a process that's like a minefield. The patience are very thin, and if they abuse it, I think they will be wasting a very historic opportunity.
Kazakhstan's Transport Ministry says the final report on the Azerbaijan Airlines crash near Aktau will be published once the full investigation is complete. Officials stress that the inquiry is proceeding according to international standards. The field investigation phase has already wrapped up, and a preliminary report was released earlier this year. Meanwhile, Kazakhstan's main transport prosecutor's office has declined to share any new details, citing legal restrictions on disclosing investigative data during ongoing proceedings. The Turkish Minister of National Defence, Yaşar Güler, will travel to Azerbaijan today for a series of meetings with Azerbaijani officials, according to reports from TRT Haber. The minister will travel to Baku after a cabinet meeting held under the leadership of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. As part of the visit, the minister will hold a number of meetings. The trip's expected to focus on strengthening bilateral defence ties and regional security cooperation. India will deliver the second batch of Akash surface-to-air missile systems to Armenia in July, according to Indian defence news outlets. The move follows a 2022 deal worth $710 million, under which Armenia is buying 15 Akash systems, India's first export of the missile. The Akash system can target jets, missiles and drones up to 25 kilometres away. Each unit includes a 3D radar and 4 launchers with 3 missiles each. The Russian Ministry of Industry and Trade aims to open an industrial park in Azerbaijan in 2025, marking the first joint industrial project between the two countries. The Deputy Minister announced the plan in Tashkent, highlighting stronger Moscow-Baku economic ties. The park is expected to support manufacturing, technology and trade partnerships across key sectors. The breakaway region of Abkhazia in Georgia remains a focal point of wider geopolitical tension. Whilst the majority of the world recognises Abkhazia as part of Georgia, the region's de facto authorities have forged ties with Russia, who recognised Abkhazia's independence following the war of 2008. Georgia, in response, declared the territory as occupied by Russia. Joining us now to discuss President Putin's anticipated visit to Abkhazia is Dr. Vakhtang Maisaya, Head of Geopolitical Research at the Georgian Strategic Analysis Centre. Thanks a lot for being with us. Now, this would mark President Putin's 5th visit to the breakaway region. What are your thoughts on this?
Thank you very much for having me and to share my views on this very just about fragile topic from the Georgian national security perspective. Well, yes, I would like to mention that Vladimir Putin once again violated and humiliated Georgia and violated international law. This is about absolutely clear story. He also just sent a clear message that Russia still just waging against Georgia a so-called hybrid war. I will mention even just a mental war. It's a new type of warfare which was developed in ages of the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation. And I guess this is about indicated that Russia will absolutely keep support the breakaway of this occupied regions of Georgia, Abkhazia, and Tkhinvali region. And I would say just de facto it means if just about Vladimir Putin arrives in occupied territory of Abkhazia, it will be a declaration of the annexation process like it happened in Ukraine. Toward this, toward Ukraine's Crimea and even Ukraine's territory of Lugansk and Donetsk. So I guess Russia never, yes.
So what about Abkhazia internally? What impact could this visit have given the political developments observed there in March?
Well, Abkhazia is just about considering from the Russian just policymakers the most vital important area for their perspective. First of all, Abkhazia is like a gateway to get control to the Black Sea, just about maritime area. Second, you know about that Russia is going to open in Ochamchiri, so-called military military base, in order just to increase its Black Sea fleet capabilities on the shore of this Black Sea shore area due to the war campaign against Ukraine. Second. Third, Abkhazia also just considering from the military, Russian military perspective that most of the haven of a resort area, where just about there, just about wounded or just about simply just about military staff and generals could enjoy staying on these more flexible and more as like a tail areas of Abkhazia, so like a resort area consumption. For just about Russia, also just want to also just use the Abkhazia for providing some economic and touristic and social just about revenues from Abkhazia side. And of course, Abkhazia is like a main gateway to reach via the so-called railway, just about pass, connecting about north and south. You know, just Russia in 2022 endorsed and developed a new geoeconomic project connecting so-called north-south transit corridor, starting from St. Petersburg and ended up to Mumbai. And of course, for this, that's why Russia also is massive. It's about $400 billion. It could be a new, just about modus vivendi for promoting Russian national interests at global level. So that's why, for these reasons, Abkhazia is very needed by Russian Federation to provide a very solid and stable, just about transit opportunities to beef
it's
up
certainly
and
one
more
to watch, isn't it? Thank you very
project.
much for joining us and for your insights.
Thank you very much.
Now, Tbilisi will host the 5th Silk Road Forum in October, bringing together around 60 representatives from international organisations and governments. The forum aims to strengthen cooperation in international and regional trade, serving as a platform for dialogue among Silk Road Initiative countries, global institutions and the private sector. The event will feature thematic panels on transport, trade, tourism, energy and IT. It will run alongside the FinTech Summit, with Georgia's Ministry of Economy allocating almost $700,000 for both events. That's all we have for now. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to A News.